Hello and welcome to Battle of the Ports and the awful Batman Forever, developed by Probe Entertainment. Let's start off with the Super Nintendo version, which runs on the Mortal Kombat 2 engine. I'm sure you could tell that without me telling you, just by how Batman actually moves. You can play as either Batman or Robin as you walk around dimly lit environments, awkwardly punching and kicking enemies. The controls are largely based on move lists and key sequences. Some gadget moves involve moving away from the enemy right before pressing a punch or kick button. It's bloody stupid. The gadget list is selected by the player at each level, with 3 standard gadgets for each character and 2 gadgets selected from a list. There are also 4 hidden blueprint gadgets. There are 2 kinds of co-op modes in Batman Forever. Players choose between Batman or Robin. In one mode, Batman and Robin work together and cannot harm each other, although they share credits. In another mode, Batman and Robin can attack each other but still need to look out for enemies and have separate credit counts. But you know what? It doesn't matter what mode you play in or what weapons you choose, because the game will always be a yawn fest with stupid controls. For example, you need to use the select button to fire your grappling hook, but even then it only fires diagonally, which is useless. To fire up, you need to press the select first, then, just after, press up. Say when jumping down from a platform, you need to press the right shoulder button, then, just after, push down. Why? Another annoying point with this game is that every single screen has to load. This soon becomes extremely tedious. I wonder if the other versions are this bad. So let's take a look at the Mega Drive version. Now while it's missing the fancy opening of the Super Nintendo, and let's admit, looks rougher due to the lower colour palette, the game itself is more complete. We now have graphical extras such as the animated NG bars, some extra animation in some backgrounds, and a much better scoring tally screen. However, all the nice lighting effects are missing in this version. The audio is also weaker, but we do get some speech. I'm not sure that's a plus point, mind you, as it sounds pretty poor. The most important point though is that the Mega Drive port plays much faster and lacks all of those horrid loading screens. That alone makes this worth playing over the Super Nintendo version. But you know what would be better still? Playing Batman Returns on the Super Nintendo over this crap. Here's the Game Gear version. Now according to EGM, America's equivalent to the UK's Computer and Video Games, and by that I mean, they write any old crap if the price was right, they said, and I quote, "The Game Gear version has graphics that are virtually identical to those of the Genesis and Super NES version." Do you think this looks identical to those versions? Even the Mega Drive looks worse than the SNES game, and this looks worse than that. So how on earth can it look the same? Well, At least it plays just as poorly, so that's something it has in common. Game Boy next with a pretty basic port of the Game Gear version. I wonder, does this look identical to the Super Nintendo or Mega Drive version? I bet EGM thought so. Let's end this with the MS-DOS version, which seems to be based upon the Super Nintendo more than the Mega Drive. While having a better colour palette than the 16-bit console versions, and a lot more digital sound effects and speech, it is missing the lighting from the Super Nintendo version and fluency of the Mega Drive version. It's also missing reflections that the Super Nintendo and Mega Drive both had. So on one hand, this version is better looking in some respects, definitely sounds better, but sadly doesn't play as good as the Mega Drive, since it plays more like the Super Nintendo.
To discover the treasures revealing their jewels, open their locks with your world of tools. Looking for savings? Check all around, raise up your interest, and tell what you found. If you should finger a quad of these prints, a prize will be yours to make criminals win.
And let's take a look at all those versions of Batman Forever running side by side.